Okay, Fambulem, a very warm afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on whereabouts in the world you are. Just a quick few announcements. Just a quick few announcements. First of all, I hope you don't that I normally play on my channel. Not this one, not anyone. Pardon me. But King Jimmy is a vintage song. It's a classic, to be honest. That over 20, 25, probably 30 years on, King Jimmy continued to be one of the biggest songs ever. Of course, that's my opinion, and I'm sure it does chime with a lot. 2nd of October 19, I want to say a big welcome to every one of you, and my apologies for the late transmission. My apologies for the late transmission. Come on, I can't talk now. Please, Fambulem, I beg for some kind of understanding on why we late. Program for don't begin 9 o'clock. Of course, we run late, and my apologies. It's all my fault and no one else. But waiting kind of important is the program must be held. So the program is on. And I promise you, we're going to try not to go beyond the 1 hour mark. So it's almost 10 o'clock. It's almost 10 o'clock. So what we will endeavor for do now for finish the show at, if I don't begin 9, now it's almost 10. So we try for finish at 11. So we look at about 1 hour, 15 minutes max. If I do go over, please send me messages so that we go correct them. That opinion is very right about King Jimmy. Thank you very much. Somebody just endorsed me about the King Jimmy song. It's a really classic song. On this note, I want to welcome Mr. Hindolo Corey. Seems like a first timer. My brother and friend Dionysius Johnson. Hope I pronounce that well. Mr. Ibrahim Sisi. Sister Kadiatu Jalo. Yeah, thank you very much. Nice music. Josephine Bailey. Elijah Sisi. We just enjoy King Jimmy. And my friend and brother, Mr. Sete Greer Jr., all the way from the city of Northampton. And I want to use this occasion as well for say happy birthday to the president of Liberia. We're celebrating birthday, I think was it yesterday or the day before. Okay? So many happy birthdays to come, Mr. President of Liberia, Opong George Mane, we are His Excellency. And also, I believe today is the president of former Sierra Leonean President Prince Kroma. We want to wish you happy birthday as well and wishing you many more happy years to come. Mr. Daniel Amor, thank you very much for your kind sentiment and God bless we all. Going straight to the point, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, we don't get beaucoup time. Glenna Asi Fembe, welcome to the program, my sister. Thank you for tuning in. Going straight to the program, we already don't see the title, which is about the firing of over 200. 200, did you hear the emphasis, ladies and gentlemen? 200 statisticians, okay, from Statistics Sierra Leone. We now an arm of the government of Sierra Leone. We're responsible for statistics, drawing demarcation lines, the election proposition there where we can see boundaries, basically things that get to do with statistics for outline things that way pertaining to the country. Very, very critical component of the country called Sierra Leone. Okay? So, over 200, if I'm not mistaken, 250 of them. You see, I'm not sure about the number, let me make it clear, but I know say a day between 200 and 250. So 200 of them were fired, summarily were fired. They were called into a room and they were given letters, no decency at all. And we not to say this out of our own volition or our own will or somehow we are making this up. No. It's been on social media and we saw what happened in the room, how these letters were given to people who have served in a capacity of trust and confidence for a number of years. Remember that these employees, between them, the 200 plus some more employees that were summarily fired, had served between 8 years and 3 years, if not 2. So that's a length of service that somebody that you think you can dismiss summarily will have served. So even though they could be fired, but apparently, what are the reasons? Thank you, Mr. George Kamara. Allegedly. That's a critical word. And this is what I expect on the channel, that wherever we sway away or shy away from technical words, we stand to be corrected. We're not arrogant. We are open. So thank you, Mr. Kamara, for that. Allegedly. The point here is, it is clear that over 200 employees were fired from Statistics Sierra Leone. The charges, and I will deal with that subsequently, but let me develop the case. So I've already said that over 200 employees were fired from Statistics Sierra Leone, and this was done by the chairperson of Statistics Sierra Leone, who has just joined this noble institution, okay? And it was done in collaboration or conjunction with the SG, which is the abbreviation for the Statistician General, okay? This is the reason, and this is no assumption, but just the fact, because the people that were fired, the reason why they are contesting is because what they were told, in other words, the reason on which they were told that they were being fired or they were fired is this. Imagine they were called misfits. Okay, they were called misfits. I just paraphrase this because these are not the exact words that were used. But if you want to look for synonym for the kind of things that or language that was used, then of course misfit come into play. In other words, these people who were fired, the reason why they were fired given to them was or is, because it's ongoing, there is no qualification, or they don't have the required qualification, okay, to be what they were subsequently before the firing. In other words, they did not meet the requirements of Statistics Sierra Leone to occupy the positions that they did occupy. So what we have also learned is on the 22nd of May, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a high-profile case. High-profile in the sense that the entire nation, they have heard of this particular case. Is those that were fired, they've written to the ACC boss. They've written to the accountant general. They've written to the government of Sierra Leone. And let me spell something out very, very quickly at the earlier or onset of this particular program. What I want to viewers they understand is, according to documents we don't land at the desk of the then and now, government, although me believe something else, I go come to that, but those that are affected by this sacking, this mass sacking at Statistics Sierra Leone, does believe that government really not get something for do with this in terms of their sacking. And this is not the general belief of some of a large number of the one that we don't get report from, not believe say that the government get something for do with the sacking. In other words, because prior to this report, there have been many reports about mass sackings in government institutions, and the rest of it because of political reasons. So I just want to spell this out, that from what I have learned, government really not get a hand inside this. Instead, what we are understanding, ladies and gentlemen, is a boss. In other words, the big man for this particular institution, an individual who has gone rogue. We don't go rogue. We don't become a cheat. We power don't go nine head. We they abuse power. Remember, all of this stand as an allegation, and the circumstantial evidences are still there. And let me develop further. While we understand this, Mohammed Koroma, I have sent you a request. No, sir, you haven't sent me a request, because if you do, I will certainly see that request. And you know the rules of the game, sir. Thank you very much. So you probably need to keep trying, or you need to come out of your account and then come back in again into my account and send me a request. Okay? I can already see that Mr. George Kamara, interestingly, is very active, and particularly on one side of the argument. But Mr. Kamara, we will deal with this, okay? I will definitely, and I'm taking cue from you, mind you. Yeah, because the first one you came out with was the word allegedly, which I do appreciate, because a large degree of the accusation that's been done here or been made in terms of this program is alleged. Thank you. But I know you've gone further. What were the grounds for termination? You did take the cue. Yes, good question, but I will come to that. So, on May 22nd, what this forum has learned is these employees whose services were terminated were summoned summarily into a room. That's the understanding of this particular platform. They were summarily summoned into a room. And that particular room is a room within the institution that we are talking about. And there's a name for that room. And that room is called the data room. This is where they were summarily summoned. Whilst in this room, termination letters were served to these people who eventually lost their jobs, okay? Who eventually lost their jobs. Now, I take it that Mr. Kamara, or one of our guests, don't want to be personal anyway, because it's a good question, is asking why these people were, their services were terminated. I said something about that briefly, and if it's contentious or there is an other argument to the story, please let us know. But there were a couple of reasons given, and I will restate a few of the reasons that I've already stated, which this channel knows, as was being told by those whose services were terminated, because they got a termination letter anyway. And in those termination letters, of course, reasons were provided as to why their services were terminated. Couple of the reasons that were given is they lack the criteria, okay? They lack the requirement. Specifically in this case, the academic background, the academic requirement of occupying the positions hitherto that they occupied prior to their dismissal. So, if you're listening keenly, ladies and gentlemen, one of the key reasons given is these people that were fired, over 200 of them, if I'm not mistaken, 250 employees of Statistics S.L, a critical component, an arm of the government of Sierra Leone, who lost their jobs. What we've been made to understand is the lack the criteria. Probably what the first caller. Let's have a look at this again. It's not to entertain all sides. We really want to entertain all sides. So let's see who is calling. Okay, the call's gone off. The call is gone off. But we'll definitely try to see who is calling. Anyway, caller, if you're watching the program and you want to call again, please feel free to do so. Sorry I missed the call, but if it's pertaining to this program, please feel free to call. The number is there. So the bottom line here is these people, they are on record for having been fired because they lack the prerequisite, the requirement academically of occupying the position hitherto the sacking that they did occupy. So, for those who want to hear the reasons, of course, which we are going to provide anyway, This is just one of the reasons, but a critical component as to why they were fired. Okay? And again, these people that were fired have come up and say the idea that we are being accused of lacking the criteria academically is not thorough, it's not proper, it's not right. So therefore, this is why we seem to look, or we are appealing the case that we were unlawfully, illegally fired from our positions. So to go on May 22nd, these people were served their dismissal letters, their termination letters. Okay? But this is the thing that we've understood on this channel as well. We will come to the issue of mass sackings and the implications, the ramifications, and then we will drift into theoretics, hypotheticals, and then we will also look at circumstantial evidence as to the effect that such actions potentially will have on an institution, and we also have evidence to back up some of the claims that we are making, because imagine if you get rid of such a huge number of people in a critical component of your arm of government, it surely will have an effect, because such institution will definitely lose its value in terms of being effective, its value in terms of being efficient. But like I said, we'll come to that. Somebody is trying to come into the program. We'll see. We'll try to invite people that want to come into the program. Okay? So let's look, or let's retrospect a little bit. Yes, Mr. Johnson, how are you? I hope you're well, my brother. Let's retrospect a little bit. These jobs which these people have been sacked from are jobs that were advertised. In other words, the process which normally takes place in terms of advertisement of jobs was done. What this means is, like, those of you who are not on the inside, and that's one of the reasons in terms of corporate government and accountability process, this is what is done. So you don't sort of massage the process or compromise the process. If there's a job somewhere in a parastatal, an institution, government, private, and etc., in terms of fair play, you advertise such jobs. So in this case that we are talking about tonight, these jobs were advertised. When these jobs were advertised, people obviously saw it. It could have been you. It could have been me. We did see it, okay? So we did apply, or those people that were interested in those jobs that were advertised did apply for those jobs. Those jobs subsequently, some of these people, obviously not all of them, because you can't have 10 jobs and 50 people apply for 10 jobs and expect every one of them to get those jobs. No, they're going to sift through the process and see who are the best, who fits the requirements most. And these jobs will be offered to such people. In other words, in the end, these jobs were offered to these people who were most qualified for the jobs. We have to take it as it is, okay, at the time. Now, when these people were offered the jobs, of course, every job has got a probationary period. And from our understanding, on this particular job, 6 months was the probation period. And remember, earlier on, I've said that some of these people have served for over 8 years. So the range of these people, this mass sacking of people, ranging between 200 and 250 people, that's quite a significant number, because, again, on a percentage basis, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to go and do your due diligence by checking on Statistics Sierra Leone. Find out how many employees are there, so you realize the weight of the matter that we are talking about. How many employees make up the entire employee database of Statistics Sierra Leone? See how many of them were fired at one go, what were left from what the total of employees that they had, the critical components of this institution, and probably you might have even more questions than I do, and see exactly where we are. about the quality, the efficiency, and the essential components of this particular institution that we are talking about. So anyway, from our understanding, these people went through the process, applied for these jobs, and the jobs were offered to the most qualified of candidates for these particular jobs. These people, by virtue of what we know now, because this goes back to like 2012. So 2012 to 2019, all you have to do is do the maths yourself, okay, or yourselves. Take 2012 from 19, or 12 from 19, let's make it easy, leave the 20 out. Take 12 from 19, that's take means minus 12 from 19 and see what's left. What's left will be in the negative, but if you want to turn it around to make it in the positive, that's the amount of time these people will have served in this capacity, which means that they've fulfilled their probationary requirements, yet 8 years on for some of them, 6, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2 years on after probation, these people are now being fired and they are being questioned in terms of their qualifications. In other words, how did they get the job in the first place? But that's another thing altogether, because we're trying to shy away from the fact, like, how did they get the job in the first place? Because from every indication that has been given by the present authority at Statistics Sierra Leone, they've tried to avoid this matter, because going into it as such will expose some other anomalies, will expose some other shortcomings, some disadvantages that were taken as per this side as against that side, which makes it more toxic and more political. So what they've said is these people lack the prerequisite, the requirements educationally, academically to occupy these positions. But we will come to why these people think that they do have the requisite qualifications as stipulated by the requirements of obtaining the job. Now here we are, okay? So they serve their probational period, okay? The Statistics Council, which is a body that is empowered to help with the recruitment, the employment of people for this particular institution, was a participant in the process. It's not like a process that was done in the dark. It's not like a shady deal. So Statistics Council was well aware of this process, okay? The chairman then was also aware of this particular process. And this process, by virtue of what it went through, which would have qualified it as due diligence, as legal, will now have many questions that are being asked as to why the situation is as it now is. In other words, the Statistics Council and the government at the time, let's sort of reflect that government has changed hands, and we're trying to avoid that line of argument, by the way. But it's going to be hard, because somehow it's going to have to fit in, and we'll come to that shortly. So the statistics or statistician general was summoned to Parliament then to attest, or as in parliamentary terms, testify as to how these employments that they've made are qualified, are legitimate, are lawful, or legal, depending on which terminology you want to use. But it is qualifying as to why these appointments are legal within the remit of the law. So the statistician general, who was summoned to Parliament then to go and attest or qualify these appointments, did attend and qualified these appointments, making it extra, if I can use the word, legal and legitimate. So the matter should have rested there. So you have to ask yourself now, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a question, of sometimes it's rhetorical because you know the answer, but you ask yourself anyway. and try, to sort of play a role in which you're looking left, right, and center to arrive at what potentially could have gone wrong, or why is it? Because there has to be an understanding of why, so that you can understand when, so that you can understand who, and then you can understand where, or you can juxtapose all of this like a mixed match, like a puzzle game, to figure out, exactly what is going on. But this is food for thought for you, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. So you will have to adjudicate on the particular issue that I'm talking, because the reason why we've picked on this is, as we speak today, over 200 employees of an institution of government has been laid to waste. I say laid to waste because now, all the monies that government have spent over the period, imagine some of them were employed 2012, all the experience, all the monies, all the workshops that they've attended, all the trainings, all the confidence building measures, and all of this now seem to lay waste, or have gone, or is going into waste. This is a net loss for government, and most especially the people of the country. And this in itself cannot be right, because again, these people have got their human rights. Remember, you have to multiply 200 people, if not plus, and fairly do a balance. And they are statisticians of the country, are the best people to even do this, because you can aggregate one person as opposed to the number of families on average that one person can have. And then you multiply this by 200, if not 250, and see the effect on a national scale, a national level. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen it in that sense, I'm appealing to you to look at it as such. Let's, try to attract some kind of humanity into us. Let's try to attract some sort of empathy into us by thinking, as the other. It is really, really critical, because we know our politics has become so polarized that sometimes to think rationally has just become seriously, seriously difficult. Because it's binary. You are either for or against. Against doesn't mean that you just out there randomly somewhere or other, but it's two-way. It's a two-way thing. It's either you're green or you are red, or vice versa, red or green. This is the argument today, and this is what is clouding the judgment of normally rational people. The bottom line here in this case that I am trying to make, ladies and gentlemen, is as we speak, over 200 of our compatriots do not have a job, which means that over 200 families haven't got a job. You might think that you've done it to another, but if you as a government does not have the moral fortitude to realize that over 200 of your people are out of job, and as a consequence of that action, it's got a social impact on you, your policies, and all of the good things that you intend for your citizens going forward, then obviously there is a degree of error here. Mr. Kutubu Kroma, I understand that you want to join the program, which I'm extremely happy for you to join. But if you want to do so, sir, I know normally what we've practiced is trying to attempt to join the program with our gadget in a horizontal fashion or in a landscape fashion. But can I inform you that tonight I'm doing it in the vertical fashion. So if you're using your phone, for example, please keep it in a vertical fashion and send me an invite. And whilst you're trying to do that, I'm going to try to send you an invite myself, so we can both deliberate on this issue, because you've got your of the nation. So it's obvious that you could be called on to have these discussions, which I'm happy to do. So try to send me an invite. Keep your gadget in the vertical position. I'm going to try to do the same thing and see whether I can send you mine, whichever way. And I'll try to bring you on the program. But ladies and gentlemen, this is something really, really important that we're talking about here tonight. It's not a joke. This is quite serious. Kutubu, from what I've seen, you've exhausted the number of times you've tried to send in the invitation. So again, sir, you need to log off, come off. We've done this before, so you should know. Come off, and then you can come on again, because that refreshes the modem, and then you can be accepted, or your invitation can come through. Mr. Suleiman Fona, okay, that's another brother who is doing quite well on the media scene, and would like to hear from him. It's the first time, and I'm really keen on hearing from you. So Suleiman, if you're hearing what I'm saying, sir, please keep your phone in the vertical position, which is the normal position, which I believe that you're watching the program on, like when you're making a call, the normal position, and send me an invite. So while I'm waiting for you to send me an invite, I'm going to also try to send you one. Let me see. And if you've tried before, you need to come off, because you will have exhausted the entire place. You need to come off, sir. Yes, I can see you've sent me an invite. That's Mr. Suleiman Fona. You need to come off, Mr. Fona, and then come on again. So you need to log off. That refreshes the system and frees up the space. No, Suleiman, you need for come off. You need for come off, log off, and log on again, because yes, you've sent me the request. I can see it, but it was never activated. So it's lying dormant. And that blocks all subsequent requests that you are sending. So log off, sir, and come on again and send me a request. Make sure, say, you keep your phone in the vertical position the normal way. Thank you very much. And this goes to everybody who wants to participate in the show tonight. And remember, we haven't got much time. We've already spoken about 25-30 minutes. We've got another 30 minutes to go, but we are looking for contributors. Mr. Kamara, who was active on the program, did send something. I will consider it laid to waste if the termination was as a result of some time of political or employment vendetta. But if it was done as a result of a resume fabrication, and that the said individuals have been underperforming, then I would say that it is unwarranted. Definitely, Mr. Kamara, you make a critical point, but I'm getting very, very interested in you, sir. I'm really getting very interested, because in all indication, you seem to be very aware of the situation at Statistics Sierra Leone, but you brilliantly put your case. But remember that these people are contesting what you are saying potentially could have been the case. One of the things here is, some of them, I'm not going to name names, but they've come out with tangible evidence. In other words, those that have got degrees from Furabe College, the creme de la creme in terms of academia in Sierra Leone, have come out with their credentials from Furabe College, Njala University, Miltimaga University. I'm sure the authorities are not questioning this, because if you are questioning those, then you will have to deal with a bigger picture in which you will have to return to these universities and start investigating them. And probably the commissioner of the ACC, Mr. Ben Kaifala, will have to get involved in these matters, because this is serious. This is the University of Sierra Leone being discredited. We know there are issues, there are underlying issues. But if we are saying that some of these people who were fired, according to the hypothesis of Mr. Kamara, that probably their papers were questionable, as has been indicated by their firing letters, and some of them have come forward with their certificates, their diplomas from allegedly credible investigation. I use them allegedly and in inverted commas for a particular reason, because I'm now speaking to Mr. Kamara. Then of course the universities or institutions that they are claiming to have attained these qualifications from, which made them qualify to attend or seek or have a job at this particular institution, then these institutions where allegedly they got the qualifications from, obviously should be investigated. So this is not a small case in itself. And Mr. George Kamara, I'm really interested in you now, and I'm following you. I like the appeal to the mind about the humanitarian side of the issue. Thank you, my brother and friend, Mr. Daniel Damore Watson. Of course, it's a two-sided thing and sometimes three-sided thing, because the intention of government is always noble. Let's set those parameters clear. Government's intention is to see the well-being of its people. So government will not have an intention to humiliate, okay, take bread, let's put it in local parlance, for pull bread na the mouth of in people, because na in suppose for they put bread na the mouth of in people. So for pull bread na the mouth of in people, en masse, E-N-M-A-S-S, some have got E, en masse. In other words, this kind of number of people, then obviously there is something fundamentally wrong. And remember, this is not the first time. There have been many allegations of impropriety, procedural improprieties. Many allegations of this nature. We're not making this up, and there is no accusation being levied on government in this case and many other cases. What I've also learned from some of these employees, and I said it from the beginning, is a boss, the head of the department, the head of the institution, who's gone rogue, who is now basically abusing power because power is being given to him, so he's basically abusing power. This is the take from the very people who lost the job. So we come now to the issue of vendetta and suppositions and hypotheticals and conspiracies, obviously. And here we are. Okay. Sister Honoria, Sister Asia Tubundu, Brother John Mans, welcome to the program. Brother Sajo B. Lamarana, Sister Sajo, sorry, got your name mixed up. Yeah. Anyone can attain a certificate and unable to produce, bring it on. Yeah, well, exactly, Sister Sajo from the United States. If people make claim, and there have been claims in this particular case, because remember, let we not lose sight for one moment, because sometimes you try to throw invectives and cast aspersions, and many other things, for it's like say what you did in combat, in this sense, like argument with others, for distract them. So you throw a bit of here and there. And some people are very, very occurrent to them things, and they allow them for let it happen. And if they want to deal with them, they can deal with the entire package because they know exactly where you're coming from. You cannot address this issue, so you jump to another issue, just like that. Where Englishman call, you are all over the place. We know clearly, see, these people, they accuse them of not having the particular documents we required academically. We know, say, them people there, some of them are overly qualified for the position where they behold. Because some of them don't submit them documents to me. Some of them don't go on public media. They don't already say who they are in terms of the academia criminality where they accuse them of. Some of them have got degrees in mathematics, where if you did a statistics, now something where you go really happy for have, because remember when you do stats, now numbers, probabilities, proposition, and the rest of it, that's not my area. Just a brief idea, you go expect that because now numbers. Remember you do demarcation. You see when they talk about politics, then line demarcation. You see when they talk about mapping, all the things then they involve numbers. When they talk about demography, involve, like people and numbers and quantity, and then square meters, the occupancy relatively of available commodity in this sense, people and what they occupy, outside they occupy, square meters, almost mile, and the rest of it. So you expect people of that nature, they, for understand exactly what they do. So you expect for them get degrees like in mathematics. And some of these people got degree in mathematics. Some of them have got master's degree. But what's the irony of this, where they raise questions, is You remove a set of people allegedly on the basis, and Mr. Kamara, if you're listening, allegedly on the basis of not being qualified. But then, from what we understand, some of these people have been replaced with people who, in terms of the capacity of the particular institution we will talk about, they fall short of the qualification. Because somebody gets some other qualification, you say not qualified for this particular job. Pardon me. But when you finally appoint somebody, like what would they understand? Somebody gets a degree in religious knowledge. That's kind of interesting for throw something. I mean, this is real. One of the occupants right now Statistics S.L in a senior capacity, if I'm not mistaken, either the HR or something relating to admin responsibilities, has got a degree in religious studies. So maybe we try for invoke God in intervention with problems, so maybe we can have them, sort of solved. Because that might be potentially the only reason why you go sack somebody who has a degree in mathematics, and then you employ somebody who get a degree. Now, a position where relating to figures and obviously mathematics, instead you take somebody biblically, spiritually, or get a Bible degree. If you understand, to the biblical people, of course, you understand the wider aspect of which they try for develop, not a look down on biblical knowledge in any case, but we talk about roles and responsibilities in this case and what is happening. So how is this, sort of kind of possible? That's what we're saying. So we just bring this thing because it's no secret. It's all over Sierra Leone. Although, yes, you do have information from some people who are affected or who were affected by this action taken by the current chairman, who I will talk about briefly shortly, and the current SG, the statistician general. But you therefore understand that over 200 people have not lost their jobs. They've lost their jobs. Okay? And the basis for be fair. So government, in other words, is a mass loss for government at this position. Obviously, because government don't spend boku money for teach them people. So even if them people have been enter the profession as apprentices, some of them as contractors, because indeed, from what we understand again, some of them did occupy or enter the profession as apprentices. Some of them did enter the profession as people we not get any idea at all, but from humble levels. But this is not the position where they find themselves today. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with this shortly, but I just want to give you some more music because I'm running out of battery. But don't go away. I just forget for do me connection. So I'll do me connection shortly. But whilst I try for do please forgive me. But I go try for play music for let we sort of enjoy while we wait. And in the meantime, you are the big. Una not forget for share this. Let we share this video all over the place. This not a video where we accuse government, because now so I get for end. It will be more of an appeal to government. That government, should see reason why they for come into this picture. So while I try for connect me machine, I just want you una more. I want you una some music. Pambulem, are still there. No, not go away. I just connect me gadget now and make sure see we get enough charge so that we don't miss the show. Yeah. So that we don't miss the show. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. Like I said, I've been just warm up the flow briefly whilst we put we gadget on charge. So we now one moment is good, next moment is not. Yeah. One moment. Right. So we are back. Okay. We got small technical issues then, but we are still here. Family, you see, we lost over 50% of we people that have been on log on already. But that's fine. Okay. So I was saying this now a net loss for government. And I can sometimes ask myself the reason why I say and I want to present that to the people. Now we keep an open mind. So government has got a right for employ people where it believes say go make the reason of employment being very effective because government get for be an effective machine. All the annals of government, all the cylinders of government has to be well oiled so that it function. Government a functional thing. So it function well, it produce well, it act well, and the country and its people are benefiting all over the world. That's what government is. So in this scenario, government wants to employ people who are definitely of some help to its aims and objectives, to in policy the way they try for initiate, way they roll out. So therefore, if somebody not effective or a group of people not effective, of course it's incumbent on the part of government for relieve such people of their positions of trust. But in this case, because we can go on and on, in this particular case, because we're fast running out of time, it is not the case. It is rather indeed a case of where voting the people that fire the people when they fire off is should not get academic credential. And these people say no. Not every one of them, because sometimes you might get confused because it's obvious say some people when they fire not get academic credential. Like just imagine it's a complete sweep of the place. So you get janitors, you got sweepers, you got cleaners, you got toilet cleaners who were also affected. Now, I'm not sure whether part of the criteria of this particular institution with cleaners is that they should have a college degree as well for clean toilets other than trainings and the rest of it, or at least minimum some diploma, some certificate. I don't get it. This is what I need to understand. But the bottom line is there are people who are qualified, yet they lost their jobs. And you have to ask, how did they lose their jobs? And here is the controversy, okay? The people that we sack them people there, they accuse them of being illegally, unlawfully employed. Yet in their termination letters, and this is not the oxymoron about this entire debacle, in their termination letters, they recommend them or refer them to the accountant general in terms of the back pay, or how they can call them, then gratuity, where they're entitled to, where a legal employee entitled to. It's not like you are employed somewhere and suddenly we don't need your services any longer. It's been terminated. You've been relieved of your duties. Thank you for the time that you've served us. Because everything lawful and legal, we will look through the system, and what we are now going to do is to recompense you for your time of service. That are a kind of appreciation. So the false dichotomy here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're following, is if these people are being accused of illegality, they should instead be in the dock. In the dock, I mean, being criminally charged for misleading the institution government for all those years. It's a crime per se, because they've been accused now. But no, they've not. Instead, they are still running behind the back pay, which they are entitled to because it's stipulated in their letters of termination. Family and this thing here serious. It's not really funny. And now they are say with the counter hypotheses, and the rest of it. There have been many contributions in the chat room. Let me see whether we can read again. That's what you call catch-22. Exactly, Sister Sergio. It's a catch-22 situation. I think you categorize them well or characterize them well. Mr. George Kamara, since we lived in a democracy, I am using the preceding term loosely. Then the terminated employees, either individuals or collectively, can file a class action litigation to express their grievance, their grievances. I said it. Mr. Kamara is quite a clever man. This is a topsy-turvy situation, and especially on the part of Mr. Kamara. It's like insinuating, it's like inferring, it's like all of this. But you can see the redirection. And it sounds and looks like a legal advice, which it is. But I'm trying to imagine where it is coming from and who is it coming from. Okay, anyway, let me say this. Yes, Mr. Kroma, I'm ready for the invite. Anybody who wants to partake, we've got like 15 more minutes, and I'm going to end the show at 15 minutes. If you want to partake, send me your invite, of course. I will entertain discussion. It was meant to be a monologue, but I don't mind the dialogue. Of course, class action should be taken by these people if they feel so aggrieved, and there's a complete grievance. But it's not like these people are sitting on their laurels, okay? They are not. They've begun actions. Remember, these people are academics, by the way. It's not like they are a bunch of idiots. They have begun actions around the trail. So first of all, this thing occurred in May. It's been 5-6 months now ongoing, and there's a process that they need to follow in all employments. If you feel aggrieved, if you've got a grievance, you start it with your employer. If your employer cannot address the grievance, you take it one step further, and so on and so forth. That's the process. And I can assure you, Mr. Kamara, from my understanding, this is a national issue because they are all on the airwaves. It's not like a secret. They've been on national television, AYTV. They've been on 98.1 and Culture Radio, DJ Bass, and the rest of it. They've been all over the place because they feel deeply aggrieved. Hopefully, it will come to where you've just put it, and from all indication, that's the direction that it is going. But there's a process that you have to follow, and that process here is they have written to the accountant general, because first of all, their services have been terminated. And in the termination letters, like I said earlier, it is there that they are entitled to compensation for the services that they've rendered through their different periods. So therefore, that matter is with the accountant general. So they have therefore written to the accountant general. It might be of interest to the listeners, the listening public as well, that these people have also written to the Minister of Finance, Honorable J.J. Blood. They have not only stopped there, they've also written, because these are all components of government, they've also written to the FS in long, the Financial Secretary. They've written to the Minister of Labour, the Ombudsman, whom they've also CC'd. They've copied all of these agencies of government and the rest of it on their matter. So it's not like they're sitting on their laurels. What they want is justice to be done. So these are humble, law-abiding citizens that are just following the procedure, and they obviously does feel aggrieved. So they are taking matters within the context of the law. Mr. Aloysius Y. If only those fired from their jobs signed an employment letter or contracts and they believe what was in their contract as a security of tenure have been abused, and they know their rights, the best, sorry, I've just lost that. The best bet is to go to court and seek redress. Needless to say, waste time on all these discussions that have the propensity to divide us further as a nation. I think, Mr. Y, you make a good point. But notwithstanding, it would depend on how the delivery from these various annals of social media and other news channels are done. Because I suppose even where you are, this is the way it is done. You don't just fly off to court. And I think Brother Kamara said this earlier on, and it boils down to the same point. In your profession or at a job venue, when issues that you don't agree with, in this case, there is an aggrieved party. So they file a grievance within. They ask, why were we sacked? In the letters of termination, they told them X, Y, Z because of professional qualifications and the rest of it. They contested that. Also, they are entitled to compensation for the time, that they served. In other words, gratuity, or probably much suited will be benefits. They are entitled to benefits. So you can see the confusion there. The people who sack them saying that they are illegal or unlawfully employed, but yet in the letters of termination, they are saying that they are entitled to benefits. That's the first error that you will see in itself. But to address directly the issue that you're saying, there is a procedure to be followed. They can't just rush out to court. So they are following these procedures. They've written to the Accountant General, they've written to the Financial Secretary, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Labor, who is responsible for labor laws and rules, okay? And there's also an ombudsman, who is a kind of regulator of rights, workers' rights and the rest of it. So they've written. So that's quite a procedure that they followed. What follows next will be how those that they've written to, these authorities that they've written to, in terms of their predicament, will respond. This is the situation, Mr. Y. Thank you very much for that contribution. Kutubu, send the invitation again, and while doing so, turn your phone horizontally. Okay, look, good luck. I don't need it horizontally. I need it vertically. I'm not doing horizontal today. Daniel Watson, justification. There's no justification for mass sacking by a government. You have to listen to what Brother Watson just said. It's probably justified, but so the onus is on them to prove why is it justified that you can fire 200 people, 300 people. Why? What's the reason? So 300 people accordingly are not qualified. This is a mockery, to be honest, because maybe you can find few rotten or bad apples among the good ones that you can easily get rid of. But 200 to 300, 250 people just fired? There has to be an agenda. And this is the nature of the game that I was talking about. That let's get to a bit of hypothetics or hypotheticals, theoreticals, aspersions, conspiracy. And here it is. 200 plus more people. Fire them from an institution where they've served for 8 years. So let's say you were doing it in good faith. So what about the replacements? Because definitely that renders, it's clear to see because the data says who are those that are qualified, who are those that have been running the situation in that institution. It's these very people. These people are the ones that have been going around mapping, doing their stuff. Like CGIS, there's a unit within this Statistics Sierra Leone who are the mappers, known as the CGIS. These are highly qualified people. All of them are gone. They've lost their jobs. So who does the job now? This is where government intervention needs to come in, because you're falling short of your contract with your people, their well-being with your people, and the people are complaining. So therefore you need to listen. My understanding again, they've taken it to Mr. Ben Kaifala, the commissioner of the ACC. But the complaint here is that the current management is taking bribes to employ other people. But in order for this case to be prosecuted, there has to be tangible proof, because for now, there's nothing tangible. It might be happening, but it's not tangible, because then those that are offering the bribes to be offered jobs will have to compromise their jobs and come out and give evidence against those that they are offering the bribes to, so that Mr. Ben Kaifala can have a case to summon these people that are being accused. So everything remains in the alleged. Now, this is terrible, but the point here is the government has a responsibility to look after its citizens. 200 people, mass sackings, and remember, it seems like there is a pattern here, because this is not the first time that this is happening. It's been happening on several occasions, different institutions, ministries, parastatals, in which we've heard only the confusions of what we are kind of trying to hear again. It's a repetition, okay? That these people were not qualified, that these people were contractors. So if they were contractors, so we've got or reserved the right to fire contractors at will. Well, probably we're contractors, but what is the logic behind it? If you've trained these contractors up to a level, are you not going to phase them out, gradually? Why would you want to, suddenly put them all together as a package and dismiss them? Except you've got a standby replacement. It's as simple as ABC. It's as simple as drinking water. And this is what makes the whole thing suspect. You can't fire 200 people from a critical component of government. Where are the replacements? Show us the statistics that show that there is an equally competent, qualified number of people waiting to occupy those positions. Show us the list of the people who have occupied those positions, or who eventually you've offered these replacements to. Who are they? Where are they from? I mean, we could go on and on and on and on and on. And this is becoming funny, and this is why I want to appeal that government should come in. Government really needs to step in, because the joke is on the government. And especially from what we're hearing, remember, throughout this broadcast, I've been emphasizing over and over that this is a critical component of government. I mean, this is no funny area. This is Statistics General of Sierra Leone. People responsible for demarcation, mapping out, collating, census, population, gathering, numbers, figures, demography. These are the people. And these are quite professional people. Or it would need professional people in there. And you know what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? This is really sorry. They are now calling on some of these people, sometimes on a contract basis, to come and help those that they've employed to go and carry out responsibilities, because those that have allegedly been given these positions cannot carry these responsibilities or carry out these responsibilities because they don't know the responsibilities. So it's based on favoritism, it's based on cronyism, it's based on nepotism, that the new administration have now gone to employ family and friends of connections, their connections. And this is simply wrong. And we're saying this from the perspective of an objective basis. I've got no fish to fry there other than wanting the right thing to be done. So this is why in this broadcast tonight, I personally want to call on the government, as most people watching this platform will, and even those that came into this program, because this is what it is about, the then and now. It's about critically thinking. It's about looking at what people are saying there. That's why I read few of the contributions that were made by people in the chat room. That let's take a critical look. Sometimes, yes, we are compromised. Yes, sometimes we have our allegiance somewhere. But should that make us, so clouded in terms of judgment that we no longer see our fellow compatriots? Because if we don't, the danger equally falls back on us. Because when you take 200 people out of the equation in terms of earning, employment, you only need to multiply that by average 3 as per family. So if you multiply 200 times 3, ladies and gentlemen, do the maths in terms of the employment effect in the country, what that represents in terms of numbers. So how many people have been deprived out of employment, and the beneficiaries behind this huge number of people that have been fired? And what are the subsequent ramifications and effects on the society in terms of social injustice and its ramifications on the society, which eventually does cost government in itself in terms of both material and financial. Hence why it is critical that government don't just look on the side when something of this nature is happening. They need to take action and act. We are only appealing, like I've said. My understanding from all of those involved, they've got, or they didn't take it like government is involved, like trying to social cleanse them. Because there's a school of thought out there which is talking about demarcations. Because again, when we talk about theories, hypotheticals, and controversies and conspiracies, this is it. This is what gives rise to such. Because then people are going to do the maths. People are going to do the demographics. People are going to do the names. People are going to do the connections, the region, the tribe, and see where it comes from. That yes, you might have a few, but a greater number might come from somewhere. And then people are going to point out to that, you see, this is it. Because the people, again, being affected, ladies and gentlemen, I must say this from the research that we've done, are people who were employed from 2012 down to this point, 2017. From 2012. So you need to figure out that yourself. What is this date about? What is this year about? Who were employed? When were they employed? By whom were they employed? And then before you can look at the process. But you need to figure that out first. And you won't blame people, for looking into such. Honestly, you're not going to blame people for looking into such. So what then you will want to do is ask all those critical questions and look at the available facts in front of you. And then when you deduce and adduce, I have no doubt that you will have arrived at your answer, which will point to how reasonably you made your deductions and your additions. But all of those fired are from 2012 to 2017. So we are saying that even at some point, I didn't want to mention this, but it's quite necessary because I didn't want to bring the political arm to it in a different twist. But the Deputy Minister of the Interior, Mr. Lahai Lawrence Lima, also weighed into this case. It's on record, okay, that Mr. Lahai Lawrence Lima actually weighed into this particular case. He said that those that were fired, they had to be fired because they didn't meet the legal requirements. So the question is, what is the legal requirement? But because they point out, and it's clear in the termination letters, talking about academic, and most of these people have come out and shown their academic credentials. I have spoken to people as high up as CGIS, these are the mappers, to drivers and cleaners. I've got documents in my possession which has been submitted to this medium on appointment letters, which we find read, and termination letters. And it's kind of shocking. So because this is a high-profile case, which sort of affect the country in itself, we are kindly asking, we are appealing to the government of His Excellency, retired Brigadier Dr. Julius Madabio, to find deep down in his compassion, in his humanity, to intervene in this particular issue, in which over 200 of your citizens, sir, has been fired. And this is a direct appeal to the president. They have been fired. When these things are done, if the people cannot be given reasons as to why they are done, it creates an imbalance in the society. It creates a system or an atmosphere of injustice. Injustice creates an atmosphere which I'm not advocating for as a peaceful person, but it creates an atmosphere of a society which is not peaceful. Because now you have over 200 people whose mindset is disturbed. Some of these people have lost family members simply because they are out of job. They've lost their children. There are one or two of them that have lost their children because the children took sick. And of course, they had to be taken to hospitals for treatment, and it requires money. And we know what present day means. And because they could not afford the money, they lost their kids, Mr. President. Imagine you losing a potential vote or voter. Imagine you being responsible for making one of your citizens become so bitter with the society that he or she lives in. Imagine you've got a citizen that can no longer pay their rent where they occupied, and they're not alone. Because sometimes if they're alone, they might probably find a family or a friend that they can put up with for a while until they can make it again or find another way around. But they've got families of their own. Wife, in some cases, wives. Children, in some cases, children. What I meant to say, in some cases, like single, like a child, and in other cases, like children. Who's going to put them up? For how long? And if those people themselves are going through difficult times, imagine the tension, Mr. President. And I don't think we should be creating such an atmosphere in the country. We should be creating an atmosphere, as I recall when you took over the reins of government. The promise that you made solemnly, because I do watch body languages, you meant it. There was a degree of excitement in you, but because you've been there, that could easily be contained. But when you said that you're going to be a president for all of the people, this was something that you meant on the inside, sir. So while those feelings are still harbored, but because it's a government made up of other people with different intentions, and you are not God, because you cannot omnipresent, omniscient, and the rest of it, in other words, being all over the place at the same time, there are positions and times when you are going to be reactive. That means some injustices will have been done, and then you might hear of it later, provided that those around you that provides the fencing wants you to hear about certain issues. And if you don't get to hear about it, and it suits their political aspirations, while others suffer, you get the blame because it's your government. So once in a while, sir, you need to come off that cocoon, that bubble, and sort of integrate and mingle with your people. You probably can do a Hugo Chavez style. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same, but that would be a good program in terms of what the country is going through. It probably will give you a real feel of what the country is right now, where we are right now, which is like holding a radio program in which you speak to the nation. You receive calls, and then you answer those calls. You can make it limited. It doesn't have to be all day because you've got other things to do. But that will give you a perspective different as to what you're hearing and what is going on and what people are saying. But back to the issue of these people who were legitimately employed, people who were known as public servants, your public servants, the country's public servants, people who were PIN-coded, people who had NACRA certificates to confirm their identities, in other words, the verification process that they went through, people with social security. These are all the things that makes you a bona fide employee, a confirmed and verified employee. Yet today they are saying that they are not. This is an issue that should alarm the government, that should alarm you, sir. That's over 250 people, or about that are out of job today. Show some empathy. if you cannot bring money home under difficult economic circumstances, which you're fully aware of, and you've tried to prime the people, look, that I'm trying to do my best. Please be patient with me. Judge me when my time comes. That is in 5 years' time, which you've said. It is also imperative on you to make sure that the right things are done, sir, so that you don't have such a huge sector of your population, because a lot of people will show sympathy towards these people. And they've been making their campaign. And if it's not political, then I see no reason why the case of these people will not be readily, hurriedly addressed. It's been over 5 months. No restitution on the job because they've been fired. The benefits have not been given to them. It's all letters. The ACC commissioner has been informed. That's Mr. Ben Kaifala. But we understand that he cannot investigate because the issue of corruption, which is being levied against the current administration of taking bribes up to the tune of 5 million leons, which is alleged, cannot be investigated until someone who is offering that bribe has got tangible evidence to come forward to Mr. Ben Kaifala to offer this. It's not happening. It's not happening. Yes, Mr. Kamara, I meant a severance package. It's a benefit package. Musa Kalawa, isn't this sacking of over 240 employees an old story? Well, it depends on what you call old, Mr. Kalawa. Because this was only like 5 months ago. It's like in May, it happened in May. They actually got their letters, according to the documents that we've got here. They got their letters in May, on the 22nd to be specific, when they were called into some data room. That's where they were given, and the letters were not even enveloped. They were just on A4 papers that were folded and handed over to them. No dignity, even at that particular crucial time. But this is really fresh. It's not an old story. That's 240 or 50 of your compatriots who've lost their job 5 months ago, which means that 5 months running, they haven't got money to pay their rent. They haven't got money to pay their children's tuition. They haven't got money to put food on the table, so forth and so on. So this is serious. Yeah, good evening, brother Abdul Rahman Bangura. How are you, sir? This is Sheikh Abdul Rahman Tijan Bangura watching from Sierra Leone. Thank you, Mr. Bangura, for watching. Brian Kabia, yes, indeed, it's an old story, but all what we are asking for is the payment of our benefits. Okay, Mr. Brian Kabia, that's humility. It's an old story, but I don't see it as an old story, because if we're looking at in the political circle or country as a whole on an issue which is just like 4 or 5 months old, in which people lost their jobs and it's not being addressed as an old story, well, probably the measurement that the brother is using is different from what I'm using. Mr. Mustafa Sisse, unbelievable, brother, where Sierra Leone is heading to under President Bio's government. Sister Aisatu Shaban, respect. Thanks for watching, my sister. Welcome to the program. Brother Harry Williams, that's my uncle from an IG of the Sierra Leone Police many years ago. Yona Z. Jensen, welcome to the program, my sister. Musta Kalawa. Mr. Prince, you still haven't invited anyone yet. It's because no one has sent me an invite. I would have loved to have a perspective from Brother Suleiman Fona from Australia. I'm really interested in what the brother had to say. And Mr. Kutubu Koroma wanted to speak as well, but I never got those invitations. Remember that this is electronic. Sometimes it just goes wrong. It really just goes wrong. Yeah, so I didn't get any of those. Mr. Tambagegba, that's my uncle. Welcome to the program. Brian Kabia, are contractors liable to PIN code? Okay, that's a good question if contractors are liable to a PIN code. I'm not going to speak to that about PIN codes, but I hope, Mr. Kabia, you're not saying that all of these people were contractors, because certainly not every one of them were contractors. A huge number of them were actually employees. Some of them joined as contractors and later matriculated or switched over after a period of time and became permanent employees. That's my understanding, and I've got some documents here. I think that's been addressed. Brother Watson, Daniel, what about the NACIT contributions they've done? So of course, this is exactly, Brother Watson, why they are entitled to a severance pay, a compensation, or a benefit. That's exactly because they've been paying all those years. Are you now going to seize it? But even if you want to seize it, it's like you have to prove that they were illegal. And this goes to the bottom of the case. They're claiming that these people were unlawful employees. And these people are saying, no, we went through the process. We went through the process. It's not like we were unlawful. No, we don't agree for once that we were unlawful. No, we're not. We went through the process. The jobs were advertised. We applied for those jobs. We went through the probationary period and we became qualified. The chairman and the statistician general then, whom I believe to be Mr. Mohammed King Koroma, went to Parliament to confirm their actions. So are you not questioning that the actions of Parliament taken then is questionable? And therefore, if it's questionable, it falls null and void. Is that what is being implied here? Is that what is being inferred? Is that what is being insinuated in this case? If this is the case, then let us know, so we'll take a different angle to it. But there is so much irony in this, and I see the dichotomy, how fake and false it is. They were unlawfully, illegally employed, but yet they are entitled to severance pay. If they were unlawfully or illegally employed, they should be in the dock, because this will have been a case of criminality, because they deceived the employment agency or the institution at the time by submitting fake documents. And remember, this is the allegation. Fake documents, especially with academic documents, saying that they were, whilst they were not qualified, or submitted fake documents to substantiate the claim that they were making in terms of gaining employment. Really? Seriously? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the thing, and this is what you have to look into. That some of these people serve between 8 years, 7, 5, 6, 7, 4, 3, 2. And when we talk about aspersions as well and conspiracies, we are hearing, and I hate to go into this, but I will leave you with this line of thought as I close the program. When the current chairman, Mr. Moses Williams, entered into Statistics Sierra Leone, he came saying that he was going to clean up the place. Those employees that have lost their jobs are now saying, when he made that declaration, it wasn't clear as to what he actually meant. And it will have appeared like it was said in good faith, because normally when you are sent somewhere, is two things. Either to go and continue the good work that is ongoing there, or is to go and rectify a magnitude of errors, a litany of errors that is ongoing there. So we're sending you there. So in this case with Mr. Moses Williams, this could potentially have been the case, because when he went, that's what he said, I've come to clean this place up. Now these employees who have lost their jobs obviously are now saying, so this is what he meant. And they're feeling aggrieved that eventually they've become the victims of this cleanup campaign that Mr. Moses Williams has come to effect. But why are they the victims? And especially on the basis of the case that they've made against them, that they're not qualified. Why? They're asking these questions up to now. And those answers has to be provided. And we've taken upon ourselves to explain this issue on this platform. Like we're saying, it's no secret. But Mr. Moses Williams had a beef to grind with the former SG, who was the statistician general. That's Mr. Mohammed King Koroma. And Mr. Mohammed King Koroma is the one who employed these people back in 2012. I hope you get a picture. And I will leave it as such. So my understanding is the government has nothing to do with this. It's just an individual who feels empowered, who is taking these actions. And what we understood that he's done is whilst he's done this mass sacking, he's retained a few of these old people, in other words, to justify the position that he's taking. That after all, if he's asked, no one will actually dare say that he cannot cleanse the place out of everybody who was there of old. Now we are hearing that those that are even left there are people who has connections, political connections, almost like untouchable. Okay, so where people are going with this in terms of contractors, or confusing it with contractors, and I've got reasons to believe that yes, indeed, there were contractors, but a large number of these people were not contractors. But because the Deputy Minister of the Interior, Mr. Lahai Lawrence Lima, has gone on the air officially, publicly, to say that most of these people, in fact, he didn't even say most, he said that these people that were sacked, okay, were in fact not employees, they were contractors, which makes them vulnerable according to the logic of the Deputy Minister and what most people are going by. So if they were contractors, of course, there must have been a termination date, a length, or a duration of their contract. But even if they were, you will ask the question, did the contracts come to an end? Because naturally the contracts will have come to an end, and in the termination letter, it will have been stated there that as a contractor, your termination, your date has come effectively to an end. There is no reason why Statistics General will desire or require your services any longer going further. But thank you for the time spent and your duties and the rest of it, so forth and so on. Again, this was not the case, ladies and gentlemen. The papers are all over. So we just need to look at this as individuals. And I hope this video gets to the government. Not only the government, it has to get to the president. And the president has to see something being done for 250 of his people being out of job, and wives and children. And as I said, many people are now beginning to die. Few of these people, their kids have died. Some of them have lost their homes. We should have taken this matter to the court, but the judiciary has been compromised and micromanaged by the ruling government. There we go, Mr. Kabia. Thank you for that contribution. I won't go any further on that. They fired for two reasons. They were fired for two reasons. That's Mr. Mohamed Kalon Conte. According to the council chairman Moses Williams and CEO Malam O, census and inflation, it's another debate. Of course, it's another debate. And this, what you've just mentioned, Mr. Kalon Conte, it breathes some air of dignity into the area that we don't want to go, in which most people will be suspect. And this is it. That in 2012, that those people who were now fired, were employed by another government. And because these people were responsible for the mapping and the rest of it of the country in terms of boundary mapping, this is how corruption starts, and this is how vote rigging starts. So it seems like there is a finger being pointed on the other side for being responsible for something regarding vote rigging and employing tactics which appear to be legal. So I do agree with your premise, which is they were fired for reasons according to the council chairman, Mr. Moses Williams, which I've heard, and the CEO, Malam O. And thank you very much for that, brother. So this might be an issue for another debate. Even the sacking was done selectively. That's Mr. Brian O. Jenny Bokari, welcome to the program. Brother Olohunfe Smith, welcome to the program. Frederica Crispina Johnson, President Bio should know how people are. I agree with you, my sister. The president should know the position of people, because government intention is always to look after its people. When the president made that declaration over a year ago, 17 months ago, when he assumed power, that I will be president for all of you, I will look after you. That was taking responsibility. Justice will be yours, and I will be the gatekeeper. It turns out that some of it is not being the case, and not because the president is responsible, like I've said earlier, in the sense that He is not a magician. He's not all over the place. Some of the things are things that he's told. Some of them he gets to hear them later. That's why I hope that this video gets to the president. In the words of MKL, injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere. Of course, Brother Kamara. Yeah. There's also a saying that justice delayed is justice denied. Okay. Mr. Momo Mature Sanko, welcome, sir. Sister Frederica, again, President Bio should know how people are going through hardships because he himself had been there when he was living at East Street with the First Lady, Sister Fatima, not working for over 23 years. Of course, I won't even go through that. So this is where empathy comes from because you've lived through it. It's not like you're living in a glass bubble. Things have changed dramatically, of course, but all you have to do is reflect. All you have to do is to retrospect. All you have to do is to look back. And that feeling of being insecure, it always comes back. Don't be ever carried away. We know it's changed and it's changed forever. But imagine those 23 years, what you had to go through, sir. Just imagine. And that goes to Sister Fatima as well. Emzo Fofana, welcome to the program. Brian Kabia, the council chairman and the deputy minister of internal affairs, alleged that they were on contract, which is a total lie because we went through the rigors. Yeah, okay. I now clearly see, Brother Brian Kabia, you see, you've let yourself down. What I mean, in a good way, because you were writing in the third person, but then in between, you've given away to be the first person. In other words, you are one of the people that are affected. But I'm happy to have you on the program anyway. But you've done it yourself because I was never going to say you are. Because I've just seen your writing because we went through. Mr. Ibrahim Toure, this is too bad for our country. All of us are legally employed with an appointment letter. Of course, which is true. I've got some of the employment letters here. That's why when I'm speaking of the issue, I'm speaking with conviction. Okay? I've got them here. Abu Saidu, welcome to the program. Mahmoud Kalon, Conte. What about inflation? I don't know why Mahmoud Conte is talking about inflation. Obviously, he would have been referring to something else. So I'm a bit confused, but thanks for that. Sidiki Dinke, did they follow company policies and procedures in the firing of these individuals? I think that's a very critical question, Mr. Dinke. And it's clear for all of us to see, and we can investigate these matters by asking these pertinent questions or looking at their policies, the policies of the institution and government. But it's clear that many things were done wrongfully, very, very wrongfully. And if our judicial system is very independent, these guys have got a clear case. But hopefully, they are profiling this case on a very, very high level. And somehow I want to believe that it might reach the ears of the president and justice hopefully shall prevail upon these people. Brother Benjamin Ia Kaibanja, welcome to the program all the way from the United States. Now, just before I end the program, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make a quick couple of announcements. This week is Black History. This month, October, is Black History Month. It's been celebrated here in the UK the entire month of October. For those of you in the United States, it might appear a bit confusing because what they've done, they've given us two sets of months in a year. In the United States, Black History Month is celebrated in February, I believe. In Europe, the UK, where I live, is celebrated in October. As a man who is deeply rooted in the issues regarding Africa and Africans, if we can call it Pan-Africanism, I'm not going to see this month just go by without, your programs on this particular month. So we've got a series of programs planned for you, ladies and gentlemen, which is then and now is going to be having the month of October. Is going to be celebrating the month of October as Black History Month by inviting several guests. The few that we've got here is one, Sister Khadija Nabi, who happens to be the host and presenter of the Critical Thinking Show. We've also got Brother James Okello, who is a philosopher from East Africa. We've got Brother Neville Dixon, who is a Pan-Africanist and is Caribbean from Jamaica. We also have got Ni Lamte, who is a Ghanaian and who is a Pan-Africanist. We've got our very own brother Mohammed Kamara, aka Supermed, who is also versed with African issues in the diaspora. And we've got a few more candidates. So what we plan on doing is like every week we will venture to air 2 or 3 programs dedicated to the history of Black history. In other words, we're going to be talking about the history itself of Black history and the many other things surrounding Black people or people who looks like me. And I'm very proud to host the program. It's going to be power-packed. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be educative. You're going to hear things that you've never heard before, but within an academic context. On the 10th of October, we're going to break away from the issues surrounding Black history. We're going to stray away into mental health. We have to bear in mind that this is mental health month, and the 10th is the special day dedicated to mental health. So because of this, we have got a very, very special guest, a man loaded, an academic. He's an East African, he's Ugandan. He's going to be on this program to tell us all we need to know about issues regarding mental health. It's critical that you tune in on the day, because sometimes we tend to think, in a different way when we talk about mental health, especially people of African origin, African descent, direct African descent. We now, like Panis Forum, we think, say, na Chrisman no more, but then person away then go chain and what have you. No, mental health is far, far different when you're in the Western world, even people that you're traveling up and down with. They might be going through mental health issues. People that you're on the train with is on basically every level, different degrees. And we need to understand exactly what this mental health is. That's why we are saying on the 10th of October, you need to tune into this forum so you can hear about issues surrounding mental health. What is mental health? Who are those suffering from mental health? Why are they suffering from mental health? Is it curable? How can I diagnose the symptoms of mental health and the rest of it? So there's power-packed month of this October. And ladies and gentlemen, you've been very, very good, I can say. We've had a very, very lovely program. And obviously, every beginning has an end. So we're obviously going to end this program, and we're going to end it with a contribution from a brother, and that's Brother Benjamin Kaibanja, before we play you our normal routine songs that we play both at the beginning and the end. What Brother Kaijamba has said is when government is over bloated. Now we need to listen to this. This is really interesting. When government is over bloated, the executive arm of government, has a duty to downsize its payroll, especially saboteurs. This is what is interesting, and I know the brother, and I like the brother very much. And this is not a joke thing. 240, 250, over 200 people we're certain have lost their jobs. Brother Ben, it doesn't really boil down to this. Yes, of course, if government is over bloated, especially if you're talking about fiscal discipline, cutting down, then of course, such actions can be taken, provided it's not at the detriment of government itself. But we are talking about people who have been replaced. So it's not like you're cutting down without replacing. So I don't know where you're coming from with this assertion or this contribution at the very end of the program. But of course, you're entitled to your line of thought. In other words, your opinion doesn't make it really right. And sometimes we overuse the word and use it in a different context. But all the same, we appreciate the fact that you came on the program and you've made your contribution. And on that basis, we want to leave you all. Thank you very much. And watch out for the announcements that are going to be coming out soon, yeah? We really need to be watching for the announcements that are going to be coming out soon. I will leave you with the band, I think it's Afro National I started with. Is it Kinjimi or Sabano 75? I'll leave you Afro National. Thank you very much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Please share this video. And again, from the United Kingdom, I'm your host and presenter, Prince Kroma, saying a very warm good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My brother and uncle, Frederick Coy, just joined the program. I'm signing on now. Thank you very much, sir. Goodbye. Thanks, George. Good night, everyone. Thank you.